the course of your career as a physician or a scientist, you'll be invited to share your clinical data, case studies, or research results with colleagues, lay audiences, and conferences. If you're watching this video, you likely want to improve your public speaking skills. At this point in your studies, you've already become expert audience members and know exactly what constitutes an effective lecture from a course instructor or a good presentation from a visiting scientist or physician. However, since you may not have received formal instruction on how to prepare and present an excellent medical or scientific talk, I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you some helpful tips and resources that you may want to utilize as you prepare your presentations for the MKRC Student-Led Journal Club and case reports. This next series of slides will give you an overview of some basic considerations when preparing a presentation. There are several ways to present technical data. Other types of presentations you may give could include a poster at a conference, but this video will focus primarily on the type of talk you'll be giving at our Student-Led Journal Club, a 30 to 45-minute PowerPoint presentation. When designing PowerPoint slides for a medical or scientific talk, there are a few key principles to keep in mind. First, you'll want to select a sans serif font. There are a number to choose from that don't have the decorative flourishes called serifs. The logic behind selecting a sans serif font is that visual psychophysicists have shown that people read sans serif style more easily compared to a serif style when it's projected onto a large screen. For most purposes, you'll want to stay in the font size range between 18 and 48, using smaller font when including a reference or an image source, and reserving larger size for headings. When selecting slide background and font color, choose a high contrast combination so that your text is easy to read. On the left, you can see that the dark text doesn't stand out against the purple slide background, but on the right, high visual contrast makes this text easy to see. The quickest way to lose your audience is by sharing too many details at once. Each slide should be created to convey a single message unit. Explicitly state that take-home message on each slide, typically done on a headline or slide title. When designing your slides, keep in mind that less is more. Avoid visually overloading your audience by keeping your slides simple and easy to follow. In the next two slides, I'll show you an example of a slide that contains way too much information, contrasted with a simple one that's easy to follow. For example, if someone showed you a slide like this in Journal Club, you wouldn't know where to look. Should you look here? Focus on that? With so many details in this image and so much text, the audience members will be visually overloaded and will likely miss the main point or take-home message the presenter is attempting to convey. Instead of overly busy slides, feed the data to your audience in easily digestible tidbits of information. Make your slide title the main message you want your viewers to take away from the slide, and avoid text-heavy sections. When creating figures for your talk, number or build biological processes, showing one step at a time. This allows your audience to focus on each single step and follow your explanation along the way. Even if you think every member of the audience is familiar with the biological or chemical structure you are discussing, it's good practice to annotate key structures in case someone in your audience is new to or outside your field. Help your audience focus on what is most important by visually drawing their attention to it. The same principle applies to the presentation of data in graphs, charts, and tables. Focus most on the point your data illustrates. Don't leave the burden of decoding your data to the audience. Instead, draw the visual attention of your audience to the most important aspect of each figure, highlighting the message they should take home from each. While you've been working with the same data for months, your audience will be exposed to it for just seconds or minutes. Their best chance of comprehending the data depend on your figure's visual intuitiveness and clarity. Try to avoid abbreviations that aren't obvious, and don't assume that labeled components will be remembered on subsequent slides. Use simple, clear, and complete language to identify X and Y axes, pie pieces, bars, or other diagrammatic elements. Compare the previous slide with the same figure presented here with visual cues that draw the audience's attention to the main conclusion. Now that we've covered the basics of giving a PowerPoint presentation, let's discuss some helpful tips that will help you as you organize your slides and deliver your talk. Many speakers assume that giving a seminar is about simply presenting your data to an audience. It's not. Your job is to relay your information to your audience in a way that facilitates their understanding. This is not the same as just standing up and talking. Scientific talks have an additional layer of complexity in that our subject matter is very sophisticated and we can get lost in the details. The quickest way to bore your audience. Asking the question, why am I giving this talk, will help you communicate your research in a way that your audience hears and understands it. What information or data do you want to transfer to your audience? Why is it important? Why should they care? Make it relevant to them. To make your talk relevant, you need to know your audience. This will help you determine how best to engage them and grab their attention, as well as convey the technical information at an appropriate level for their education and background. You wouldn't give the same talk to school students or lay audience that you would give to a room full of clinicians or scientists. The most effective way to keep your audience focused on your presentation is to engage them at the outset with a compelling introduction and retain their attention by interacting with your audience throughout the talk. Strategies you might consider include telling a story, sharing a personal experience, asking, how many of you have experienced that? Or raise your hand if. You could also reference a recent event, maybe piggyback off something shared by an earlier presenter, or depending on your audience and comfort level, maybe try telling a joke. As you move through the delivery of your presentation, keep your audience oriented by this classic approach and create smooth transitions between each section. End your talk with a strong conclusion. The conclusion to your technical presentation is a great opportunity to reinforce the key message or finding of your talk. Make it memorable by reconnecting with the audience. Remind them of the relevance of your project. Thank them for their attention, and then open up the discussion for any questions. And finally, practice your talk before you deliver it to feel more comfortable and work out any bugs before your big day. Ask a friend or colleague to watch your talk and give feedback on any slides that were unclear. And finally, here are some links to external resources you might find helpful as you prepare your slides for your presentation. I hope this video has given you some tools to get started on creating your presentations for our journal club. I'd like to meet with each of you before you give your presentation to take a look at your slides and offer any suggestions on ways you might improve the effectiveness of your talk. So please try to have your slides prepared about a week in advance of your scheduled time slot if you can. That way, you can have ample time to make any modifications that would help you give a great talk. I look forward to working with each of you.